So, welcome to the Mental Margarita Show. I have Lisa Gennosa with us today. She's a physician's assistant, mother, wife, author of Incurable Hope, a wonderful book that came out in 2023, not that long ago. And that is a memoir of and survival guide for
Yeah,
coping with a loved one's addiction.
yeah.
And you have an incredible story to share with us. And we're so honored to have you on the show today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This means the world to me. I really appreciate it.
And you have so much to offer. You do so many, just working in the world of healthcare and helping people be well and all that you do. But let's go way back to the beginning. Before that came about.
Mhm.
Now you grew up third in a family of how many?
Oh gosh, five total, five kids. Um, and I grew up in Ohio. So, and then moved south when I was old enough to do so.
And how was growing up? So you had a parent that was a narcotics and liquor agent.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
So
So
have
it was a little different. My mom was the liquor and narcotics agent, so everybody kind of always appreciates that part of the story. They're expecting me to say something else, but that was my mom with five kids. She was working in narcotics for many, many years, and it was a little different in high school. I was the daughter of the police officer, narcotics agent, so it made for a little interesting experience that way, but all in all, it was pretty interesting, and you know, it's all good today. She's retired and all is well.
That's good and safe because we know that any work in law enforcement is dangerous
Yeah.
and every single day. So taking those risks and providing for the family and taking care of all of you. There was probably some hectic times for her.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but we got through it and she's doing well today. Mhm.
No, and you ended up being a physician's assistant, and wife of a doctor.
Mhm.
So did love blossom in the office? Is that how you two met and fell in love?
Oh gosh, that was a long time ago. 23, 24 years ago. I was actually working in medicine, but in a different capacity. So something on the periphery of medicine, and met him that way. And actually did not go back to school until about 10 years into our marriage, and just had made that decision to do something that I was really passionate about and wanted to do all along. So it worked out. It just seemed to work in our life at the time, and so I went back and got my degree as a physician assistant. About graduated in 2013.
A lot of book reading, a lot of schooling, a
Yeah,
lot to know. So
a lot
thank
to
you for
know.
that. Thank you for that commitment to doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Along the way as a mom and the inspiration behind your book, because we touch on it, we're going to be touching on that through the story.
Yeah.
Um, you had a son,
Yes.
and tell us a little bit about Tyler, your son.
So, well, today he's 30 years old, but kind of grew up in a typical setting. No, nothing too different, other than I did get a divorce when he was little. And so that kind of set up, just his a little bit of uncertainty in his life, and a little bit of lack of self-confidence, I think, later. And we didn't really recognize that when he was young. And of course, that was a long, long time ago. So we just kind of went along, and things were good. I mean, he was a happy boy. Did all kinds of things as he grew up. Sports, was always in sports, was in theater, was just, loved, and we had all kinds of time together and dinners together. And so everything was pretty standard, I would say. There's nothing, spectacular about life, but there was nothing, going on that was very wrong either.
I just want to, for the audience, just make a comparison now. Growing up, how did that shape your idea of what addiction was and substance use versus later on? Did you have an opinion that changed somewhere along the way? How was it in the beginning?
Well, I mean, the way I grew up, it just, in the 80s, it wasn't in my world at the time. It really wasn't. I had a pretty, you know, good, just I guess clean growing up lifestyle and family around, and didn't really have just that exposure. And so I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And that's hard to, you know, think about now because I'm so immersed in this. I've been so immersed in the study of addiction for the last 15 years. And just seeing the difference in um, my understanding of it then and my understanding of it now, and how I had sort of maybe just preconceived notions from movies or television or whatever. But then as I became very well acquainted with it myself on a personal level, I very much understand it as, just this non-discriminatory um, condition that individuals can get just as much as they can with heart disease or cancer. So I understand that now, but didn't really have that understanding a long time ago. Again, in the way addiction was depicted, my gosh, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, is a far cry from the way it is today. But even today, it's still really depicted poorly. I think we're working on that. We're getting better, but I still think it's depicted, you know, in a different lifestyle than like what my son was in, which was just your average everyday lifestyle, nothing special, but nothing, outwardly um, bad or negative or scary or anything. So, that's kind of how this is formed.
And when would you say you started noticing maybe signs or symptoms that there was a problem?
Well, oddly, my son actually started drinking around the age of 12 or 13 and using substances, but he was involved in, like I said, in sports and going to schools. And I'll apologize, I have some dogs here in the background. So he was involved in all those things, and there wasn't um any really overt signs that he was getting, he was using anything at the time. He was, again, 12 or 13 years old. There were things that, he was having trouble sleeping, or would have some trouble at school, or the signs and symptoms really didn't start until maybe the age of, um, I would say 16, 17, 18, but really became overtly obvious when he went off to college.
And do you think part of that was kind of being out from under the structure of home
Yes.
and
Yeah. Freedom, freedom.
right?
And that definitely took hold for sure.
So at what point along this journey did you discover that this was an incurable disease, that it was something that he was suffering from that you were powerless to really do anything about as far as stopping it or winning the fight against it?
Oh, I think there were multiple occurrences that happened that you really so much of it has to be pounded into you, because there was such a long time that I didn't want to accept what I was seeing. And so you don't really feel like, um I guess there were just different instances when it really would hit us hard enough to knock us down, essentially. And the biggest one was in December of 2017. And that was sort of that wake up call to recognize that we had a problem bigger than we understood. And that's when sort of everything went wrong within every realm of addiction, and the way treatment is supposed to happen, the way law enforcement is supposed to participate, with the way us as parents were supposed to be um, doing our job. And I think everything just really broke down at that point and made us realize very vividly that we were in trouble, and that our son was really in trouble with an addiction disorder. Before that, as a parent, you think so often that it's just all these things are just sort of part of growing up. They're going to try this, they're going to try that. But you find out later that there are certain individuals where um, trying alcohol or trying substances, any other drugs, heroin, or even just narcotics, right? Before opioids, before they become addicted to anything worse, they have a higher propensity for that potential for addiction. And so my son was unfortunately one of those. And he had a lot of the perfect storm essentially to create his outcome.
And there's an understanding clinically that many of us, we all have that in us the same way we have cancer genes in us as well. And there's things that can trigger those things to be activated and trigger a response that, would involve that behavior change. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, trauma begets using, which turns out many times into legal problems for people, and then it just one snowballs into the other, and then then
Yeah,
the shame begets more use, and then it's just it's a vicious cycle.
it
So
is.
may I and did he harm himself? Is that what ultimately happened?
Um, in that December case, is that what you're
Mhm.
referring to? So he tried to harm himself. Yeah, he was really at the point of wanting to, he was suicidal and he didn't want to be here anymore. And so we were able to find him really by divine intervention. We found him and he was taken to the hospital. And in the hospital, that's the area where you're supposed to be taken care of, where de-escalation skills really should be in place, where referrals and things like that should be in order, and there should be a plan. But unfortunately, between the medical side and the law enforcement side, everybody kind of did everything wrong. And my son was certainly also at fault, being that he was there, in that case, in his particular position, right? But the individuals that were supposed to be helping him kind of failed him at every turn. And so ultimately he was taken from jail in a suicidal state in handcuffs, um, he was supposed to be taken to a mental health facility. And at that time he was taken directly to jail. So to put it in context, he was had a blood alcohol content above zero point 0.4, which for those that don't understand what that looks like, it can be very deadly. So at that point, you can have a heart attack or sudden cardiac death. You can have seizures, and that high of a blood alcohol content. He was unclothed in the hospital. They put a gown on, but had it opened up in the front. So they put handcuffs on him and put his hands behind his back so he was not able to cover himself. They put a bag over his head. And instead of taking him to a mental health facility, even though he was unarmed and just, wanted to, um, really was seeking the help that he needed, they didn't felt like they didn't have a place for him, even though they did, and they took him to jail. And at jail, he had to sit there unclothed, and he was begging for somebody to undo his handcuffs so that he could cover himself. Once they did, eventually within about 12 hours, they put him in solitary confinement. And in that case, he was in solitary confinement in withdrawals. Withdrawals happen about 12 to 24, even up to 36 hours or more after you stop drinking. So you actually withdraw from the substance, and that's when it can become really, really serious and very dangerous. Um, he was doing this at the time. There were a lot of reasons, but one of them was because he had been assaulted 10 years prior to that, and we didn't know it. And we found out it wasn't 10 years prior. I apologize. It was several years prior, but we found out about everything about 10 years after the assault had happened, which was well after that night in 2017. So we didn't even know that that was part of the picture. And it's
Mhm.
not that it's the responsibility of anybody to know that in medicine or law enforcement, but it is the responsibility of individuals to start to understand that underneath addiction, there is always a source and a cause. There's always a reason. So for someone to come into the hospital with a blood alcohol content that high, it's a deadly level. And they're asking all of the officers and everyone in there to kill him, and that telling them that he wants to die. That is a suicidal crisis. And that should be handled as such at that time. And instead, it was handled horribly. And again, that caused really perpetual negative outcomes for him, that he still has a lot of PTSD from that particular episode.
That was another trauma all of itself,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. Without question.
And and we want to be in a place where we trust law enforcement and trust
Yeah.
healthcare workers to have our best interests. Now you speak and you work with healthcare professionals, law enforcement at different levels, different departments, and educating them and talking about your story and sharing this. Do you feel that we can make some progress through just raising awareness and educating them a little better? What do you think is the answer, to improve these things don't happen because they do still happen. We see it, we hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think is the
I
answer?
absolutely do. I think, and I was just having this conversation with somebody recently. I don't think that I am the end all be all to provide all the information that needs to be provided. And I haven't been by any stretch of the imagination, but I believe that I'm a cog in the wheel, as they say. I'm part of the process. The more of us that get out there and have that conversation and talk about these things and talk about the potential for change and talk about the resources that are available and, the potential outcomes that we can change, the more of us that do that, I have to believe that those things, those efforts that we're making will have improvements in our outcomes. Now, whether that's in the next 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years down the line, I don't know what that's going to be, but my hope is that what I've done or the part that I'm playing is just a part of that positive, good outcome result in the end. And I just wish I knew when that end would be. And I wish that end would have been when it was happening to my son. And I wish if it couldn't be then, the end would be tomorrow. But we're not there yet. There's still a lot of work. There's still a ton of work to do. But I feel like I'm helping move the, I guess the movement along. And the movement is for recognition and change and improved outcomes for individuals with substance use disorder and mental health, especially combined. And so that is the goal for everybody that's involved in this. And being involved in this, I've recognized how many people are involved. So when you're not, when you know, this is my focus. And I know it's not everybody's focus. Everybody kind of has their thing that they're doing and they're working on and they care about. But when you do get involved, boy, there are people everywhere around the globe that are trying as hard as they can to make change for individuals with substance use and mental health disorders. So I'm just part of that. I'm just a little part of that, very little, but I'm going to keep doing that. So to help, hope for change. Avoid the guilt trap. That is something that serves absolutely no purpose. We do carry so much guilt when we love someone with substance use disorder, but it ultimately inhibits your ability to help them and to really educate yourself and train yourself to do the things that are going to help them. So avoiding the guilt will get you much farther, much faster. Don't hide. Don't isolate. Don't avoid communication. Don't avoid talking to people. It is crucial. The more you're out there, the more you're talking, the more help you're going to do for yourself and for the person that you care about the most. Learn effective communication. This is really important. We need this for most things in life, right? But when you are working with someone that you care about with substance use disorder, it is really critical that you learn how to effectively communicate. And that is with positive reinforcement. There is a method called the CRAFT method, which stands for Community Reinforcement and Family Training. And it is really probably the most successful form of communication for anyone that is trying to work with someone that they love with substance use disorder. I really encourage you to look into that and to start using those tools early on, because that will change the way that you are able to communicate with someone that you care about so much. To get to the point of acceptance, this is really important. Something that I struggled with for over a decade. So I couldn't accept the fact that my son had substance use disorder. So I really encourage you to get to that point where you accept and you are able to face the fact that this is your life. This is what you have. This is what the person that you love is going to be dealing with. And this is now what you're going to do about it, because you really can't do anything until you get to that point of acceptance. You're kind of frozen in time. And so to avoid that, it's getting to that point of acceptance. Educate yourself. I strongly encourage you to read as much as you can. Get online, look at YouTube videos or podcasts, of course, anything that's going to really enhance your education and understanding of the disease of addiction is going to help you really improve your outcome as well as the outcome of the person that you love with substance abuse disorder. Educate yourself. That's really, really important. Advocate. So advocate for the person that you care about. And the reason why this is so important is because when you advocate, you are helping the community of individuals with substance use disorder. And that is important because when you help them, you do two things. You help yourself and you help the person that you love the most. It doesn't seem like that. It doesn't always feel like that. But the universe works in really mysterious ways. And it's amazing how the more that you advocate for them and for others, the more that you advocate for others, the more it comes back around to helping you and the person that you love the most with addiction disorder. Trade your pain and your fear for your purpose. And that means to go out and find a way, it comes back to that advocacy, but to find a way to put out into the universe ways to help others and to trade what you are feeling all the time instead of holding it in, finding ways such as writing, reaching out to your legislators, volunteering, anything that you can do to help will help improve your mood, your ability to tolerate all that you're going through.
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
So, how do we find your book?
Well, it's pretty easy. You can actually go to, of course, Amazon. It's available through there. I am in print and then also on Audible, so you can just listen to it while you're driving down the road. And then, of course, you can go into Barnes and Noble or Books a Million. You can go into any indie bookstore that you have, any bookstore across the nation or globally. And all you have to do, if they don't have it in stock, you can just ask for it and they'll order it for you right then and there. And you come back and pick it up, or sometimes they'll even mail it to you directly. So you can really get it from any source that you're comfortable using for your book sources.
All right, that's wonderful. Incurable Hope, folks. That's the book that you want to look out for. Get a copy. Get and books make a great gift. Sometimes that's a subtle little way we can help someone else without having to say too much.
Yeah.
And you can hand someone, maybe someone that's hurting, that they're maybe lost and maybe need a little something extra.
Yeah,
And so that's also a thought that you can have if you want to reach out to somebody as well.
absolutely.
And then also people can visit your website as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say. I'm at lisagenosa.com. So it's LISAGENNOSA.com. And you can actually reach me through the website. So a good way to reach out.
Wonderful. And we'll certainly be in touch with you for any updates and news. And we thank you so much for being on the show and being able to spend some time with us and share your story and talk about such important things that really you're making such a huge difference in the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that dearly. Thank you.
gentlemen, Buffalo, New York's own king of entertainment, Caretaker!
Experience the healing benefits of Reiki right in the comfort of your own home. Reiki has been used for generations to promote healing, relaxation, and overall well-being. In distant Reiki, the practitioner uses intention and visualization to share Reiki energy across time and space to the recipient. Illuminate your path to healing today. Visit crystalshelpingrays.com. You are not alone. There is hope, and there is help for everyone. Join the many others who have found the path to healing. Echoes in Healing is an organization that aims to create a safe space for healing, growth, and empowerment. Scan the QR code and begin your healing journey today.
You're starstruck, here's a sprinkle of the stardust. Hold your champagne glass and your cigars up. See the guys with mob ties drive the cars up. Bright lights, most nights they buy the bars up. Candy coated Chevy cars on the highway. It's Frankie baby, it's on and this is my way. Dean Martin at the Sands this Friday. With Sammy Davis, here's a little hint where I stay. The city shines like Liberace's mansion, and you know Elvis had the whole city dancing. Showgirl silhouette steady prancing. Shout out to June, just the Copa Girls anthem. Legal gambling, yeah, that would tempt me. It's Sin City, holy water couldn't cleanse me. And Wayne Newton had the crowd in a frenzy. Live at the Stardust, the seats never empty.